We are now live.
Hi, this is Senator Adam Hollier, and this is the We Can Do Better podcast. I'm really excited to be joined by a new councilman, Councilman Ivery Toussant from Harper Woods. And as we continue this moment, we have had a very interesting year, even in this just these very early couple moments. And today we're recording, and we were excited to watch the inauguration of the 46th President of the United States. And I'm excited to talk to a local council member, someone who is responsible for the day-to-day work that most of us are concerned with in a time where our government still is trying to get back on track and trying to get back to doing the business that matters most to people. And so, Councilman, I'm excited to have you on. If you want to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, how you ended up on council. We'll just kind of get rolling.
Yeah, why not? Again, my name is Ivery Toussant Jr., and I've just been recently appointed to the board, to the council. We lost the mayor, and so therefore one council person moved into the mayor's position, and I moved into that position. My term is actually over in like November of 2021, and then I have the decision there to make whether I actually want to run for the position. I've been in Harper Woods now about 10 years. I lived most of my life in Detroit. Being a high school math teacher in Detroit.
Oh, where'd you teach at?
At Southeastern High School.
Did you?
I did my student teaching at Mumford.
I did some work over at Southeastern when I worked at the Hans Group, and so we were, helping some folks out. But that was probably after your tenure when because it was while the EAA was there, or right after the EAA had gone away and it was going back to DPS. There's been so much change over there.
What has been, period, in the whole public school system. I'm glad they decided to go with just one school system again. That's a lot of sense to me. I have, but primarily, and after that, I worked Burroughs Unisys, the computer company, for 17 years. Primary focus in sales with them and computer sales. And then I worked for the telcos for a while when they were going there first and doing some data communication sales. And then my last 15 years, I was with Lego Education.
Lego Education?
Lego Education.
Like Lego's the toys?
Lego's the toy.
Now, you have piqued my interest, my good sir. What kind of education were we doing with Legos, and how do I get a part of it? I have a little person that I can pretend I'm buying these things for her when they're secretly for me, because nobody loves Legos as much as me. I mean, I used to get the Lego magazine and send my creations out like, hey, I can do this. Yeah.
Oh, it is. And one thing about, they say education, because really once you place one brick on top of the other, the learning really does begin right there.
Yeah.
So Divas took it to another level and put curriculum to some of our, to the Lego products. So my primary market I was working with schools. And I even introduced the Lego robotics, computer-based Lego robotics to Harper Woods schools several years ago, and actually had my son come out and do some training. So that was pretty nice to do that. And
first post-COVID event we have, we're gonna do some Lego training in Harper Woods, and you can sign me up, because Legos are my catharsism. Like, my wife jokes that she knows I'm having a rough day because I'm sitting on the floor putting some Legos together. And she's like, when we first started dating, she used to tease saying that it was strange that an adult man was playing with these toys. And then a couple years later, she was like, some people drink when they get upset. They kick the dog, they, go get in fights, they go do all kinds of stuff. She's like, I guess I'm grateful that my husband just buys a toy, sits on the floor and quietly puts it together, and then goes back to being normal. I guess this is okay.
So actually the Legos I was selling had teacher lesson plans, it had student worksheets. We were teaching, had a complete STEM curriculum to go with it. Wow. Started from pre-K all the way through the university level. Because I even had University of Michigan, Michigan State, using my Lego robotics in some of their beginning engineering classes.
I did some Lego stuff like that when I did DAPSAP as a kid. It was up at U of M, and we designed some little car stuff, and it moved around. So really cool. That's really exciting and interesting work.
So you used to be with DAPSAP?
So I mean, as a kid, every kid who grows up in Detroit does DAPSAP. I mean, you do the
I was a dap step instructor.
the Saturday morning infinite lines of, I'll never forget that. There was one Saturday, at DAPSAP where we got like what felt like a foot of snow, and I had to shovel not just my driveway, but like to the corner of the block. And the woman across the street from me was, in her 80s, and so I had to shovel her yard. And I felt like I was up at 3 a.m. shoveling and working on my dad stories, so.
Yeah, I remember you park ranger because I was a dap step instructor over at Wayne State University for several years. So that was I have a particular interest and a fondness for that.
Yeah, no, DAPSAP is one of those programs that that you are a Detroiter when you're like, yeah, I did DAPSAP. The lieutenant governor and I were talking about it as we were trying to, fighting to make sure that they maintain some of their state funding, about how we both got that engagement, from DAPSAP, right? Like that was why you had so many Black engineers in my generation, was because DAPSAP worked, right? It was this program that said,
Yeah.
hey, you should consider being an engineer. So we're like, oh,
Found out it pays well too.
mm-hmm.
You use engineers everywhere. I guess the last thing I saw you were working on the state Senate passed Bill 897 that we required Medicaid recipients to become employed or else lose their health coverage. I'm so glad you addressed that, because I remember the first time I heard about it, I couldn't believe it, how they can make something like that.
Yeah, so I mean, at the state level, we've got a lot of things that have been going crazy, and a lot of the things as we talk about our social safety network, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense to take care of people. And for many years, our system got too punitive and was not about taking care of people, right? So a lot of the work that we need to be doing over the next couple of years, and particularly work that I'll be doing this term, is about making sure that our safety network actually takes care of people, right? So that you hear a lot of talk about the benefits cliff and how, you are a parent and you have been getting childcare assistance and SNAP and, some supplemental unemployment or something like that. And you're making 20 grand. And the moment you make $20,000 and $1, you lose childcare assistance. So childcare assistance was was $10,000 benefit to you.
Yeah.
That extra dollar does not make you able to pay it. So you don't ever make more, right? You don't take those extra hours, you don't take the promotion. And so I'm really looking to address some of those kind of things. And similarly, on the senior side, we saw a lot of challenges where folks weren't eligible for Medicare because they had a little bit saved away, and there were these stupid asset tables that said you had to spend those things down. So we're really going to work hard to address that. And it's something that I've been working on with the governor. She appointed me to her poverty task force that's led by Kim Trent out of the Labor, Employment, and the Economy Department. So, it's really top of mind, top of ticket as we talk about how families and individuals are going to move forward out of what has been, and what was a really rough and transitioning into 2021 that we hope will be a better year with a new administration that is focused on ensuring that regular people are able to manage this pandemic. But as we talk about Harper Woods, what do you want to see there? I mean, you've got kind of a narrow window of guaranteed time. Most council members have a campaign season where they're saying, hey, I want to do these things, and then they get a full term to actually address them. Whereas you have this kind of truncated timeline of sitting in the chair. What do you want to get done? What do you envision your time?
That is so interesting you said that. I had been attending city council meetings for quite a few years. So that was a nice opportunity once I retired. So I got to know most of the people and that type of thing. And I also worked on a couple of little committees around, as far as like the planning committee and the economic development corporate committee too. So I've been doing some of those things here. But again, once you get on council, it's like, it takes you at least a couple of months to really learn the whole dynamics of the government, and it's kind of like, wow, my time is going by really fast. But one of the main objectives we want to do here, and we're getting pretty good cooperation from our administration too, is right now we don't have any diversity in our police and fire department. And with and right now, Harper Woods is like 58.5% Black, 34.45% white, 2.2% Asian, 0.8% Hispanic, and 0.4% Native American. we thought our public safety department should sort of reflect more of our neighborhood. So it's a little challenge now. We have, people who still need to retire. We don't want to keep folks off. We've had policemen now that we've had to hold their positions too because of Patricia, what was her name? The young lady that died in our jail. It's a bit of a challenge trying to get it, but we're moving forward with good cooperation to hope that we can see that soon.
Yeah, and as you talk about Miss Slater's untimely death there, it caused a lot of upheaval in Harper Woods, in that not only were you at the time a citizen, engaging, but led to a councilwoman being elevated to the role of mayor after the previous mayor resigned. And so I'm really glad that you're going to be doing some work to try and increase the representation in police and fire. My dad was a firefighter in Detroit for almost 30 years. My brother was a firefighter. My sister was a Detroit cop. And
wow.
So, yeah.
It's all in your blood, huh?
Yeah, I was a volunteer firefighter in college for a little while, but it's one of those things that was, at least in our family, a real opportunity, without a college education to, have a stable job that you could serve your community, that you could be proud of, and that you could raise a family and they could take care of themselves. And I know that certainly was what being a firefighter for my dad in Detroit was able to do for us and our family. So I'm really excited about Harper Woods being able to extend that opportunity here. And when we saw Coleman Young get elected mayor of Detroit, you saw a big change in the number of Black folks who were hired in police and fire. And so I'm hoping that the new mayor will be able to do that. She's always been a big advocate for our people and equity and fairness. And so it's exciting times.
It is exciting. Speaking of when the mayor was hired, I remember I was working for Unisys at that time, and the city of Detroit had a lot of our products, and then we were selling to them, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, we don't have any, no Black people or no people of color, and so that it was a little tough. We say, well, you want our business, you're gonna have to diversify a little bit, and it worked.
And that I think is something that we're starting to see across the board, is where there is a clear demand that our dollars stay with us, and that there was some recognition that we could go other places and that we would rather do business with folks that are going to support our communities and our neighborhoods. When you look at some of the programs that Detroit has done, I know that, in Harper Woods, you all have been talking about doing some similar things, as Detroit has some preferences for Detroit-based businesses and folks who have, and I guess most recently, the kind of crowning achievement that I think people think about is the marijuana ordinance, where, it's really carved a niche out for people who have lived in Detroit for some time, something that they're calling, legacy Detroiters, right? The idea that you've lived in Detroit for 15 of the last 30 years, and you didn't just move to Detroit, but you're somebody who's been here. And as these licenses go, and there's this opportunity to create generational wealth, that it go to the people who were here first and who were here when the city was filing for bankruptcy, and when, as we talked about a little bit earlier, the lights weren't working and the police didn't come, that now that some of those things have turned around and that there is an expectation that those things will continue to get better in the future, that's happening. And so as you look at Harper Woods, what are some other spaces that you'd like to see changed, or some of the things that you're looking forward to in this next year of purpose?
Well, as I mentioned to you, getting a program together and for applications to get some more diversity within our police and fire department. In fact, our goal right now is to, within the next 2 years, to hire a person of color to actually be the chief when the present one that we have retires, and they will stay on for 6 months to kind of get the new person up to speed. So there is some plan in there for that. Another thing I'm looking for is ways of being able to attract more businesses to Harper Woods, and not only attract more, but the businesses that we have, we need to get excited about them, invite them to our city council meetings. We need to have them work on some major projects with us, and that way, I guess they call it more of an inclusion method. That way we can see more community involvement as we go. I'm pushing and encouraging people to join our planning committee, to join some of the beautification committee that we have around, to join the education committee that we have. And I think all of that is just really kind of helping to unite the Harper Woods. And there's one thing, I also worked the U.S. Census this year, so I got a chance to really go through all of our Harper Woods neighborhoods and meet a few people here. And I have to admit, one of the questions they will ask you is the person here is black or white. And sometimes, you get a, well, this person's black over here, then, okay, this person, this house here, I can't reach the bottom, it's gotta be black too. And I thought you couldn't do it because every other house is we're very integrated in this community here. So that's a good thing. And everybody, for the most part, seems to be getting along quite well.
And how long have you lived in Harper Woods, Councilman?
I would say going on 10 years.
10 years. And how has Harper Woods changed during that time? I know it's been a community that's different than it was, and most communities are.
Well, one thing about it that I noticed, because also since I was in educational sales too, I was dealing with the school boards a little bit back in the day. It was just kind of interesting how the demographics just changed completely in like the last 15 years, going from say maybe 95% white, to now, 58% black, and seeing the neighborhoods integrate more and people coming in. And so I just kind of watched that go. And we need to do something. We're looking forward to doing something with Eastland. That used to be a big revenue producer for us, and we missed that revenue quite a bit. So there are programs going in place to, try to attract businesses there. We did sell at one time, and I'm looking at some other people to buy some more. So hopefully we can give a promising future for the Eastland property. May not be a ball, but at least we're going to do something with that area, and I'm looking forward to working with that.
Yeah, and as you talk about schools, under Dr. McGee's leadership, they converted that old Circuit City into the Votech space. It was a Circuit City. It's funny.
It was Circuit City. It was Circuit City.
There will be a lot of people listening to this and are like, "What's a Circuit City?" It was Best Buy's competitor. Obviously, Best Buy won that, and so they're doing some really interesting things there at the school, and it's been a kind of unique anchor in that space as well.
It kind of reminds me of the back in the day, they used to call it more of the Votech sort of school. But right now we're more computer-based learning and stuff like that. I think it's gonna, because we got to remember there's, some people go to college and that works out real good for them, but there are other alternatives besides, student loans. And if that pay well and you can raise a family with. And I think that center there is really focusing on it. I've had a couple of tours to it, and I'm just doing such a great job of it.
Yeah.
So got to remember Harper Woods, speaking of school systems, it actually has two school systems. It has the Harper Woods schools, and in certain streets we have are part of the Grosse Pointe schools. So working with the NAACP now, that's given me a chance to kind of get a feel for all of the points, school system, as well as our own, and how we all kind of work together there.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of change in the Grosse Pointes. The superintendent resigned, was it mid last year?
Yep. I think it's the official. I can't think it came official this January, and we have big problems because the population is school-age kids population is declining, and they have too many schools to support it, and the whole neighborhood is in upheaval about it. But if you don't have any money, you got to close some schools.
Wow. I mean, I think there were a lot of options, and there were a lot of discussions, and especially if you look at how that happened. I mean, there were a lot of discussions about potentially opening up some of those schools or some of the different options that Grosse Pointers had. I think what it really highlights is our lack of funding of schools. When it was 10 to 15 years ago, and it was a Detroit problem, it was, they can't manage their money. And in every other community as well, there are less kids, obviously they're less, and so I always want to make sure that we recognize that when it was us and schools closing, there was this idea that we could manage as it is moving to other, and particularly some of the more affluent communities. They just say, well, they have less school-age kids and things like that, and it couldn't be helped. They just have to close schools. And so I think it's really important that we're always conscious and cautious of just giving those kind of discussions a pass for the way they treat Black folks, because it's not the same.
Yeah, we've had a few challenges with that here too, especially with the closed up part. Since the part is predominantly Black, and And some of the Grosse Pointers are like, I don't want all those, all at one time, but I don't understand it because in middle school, they all combined anyway, so.
And Pepard had plenty of kids in it. It was not one of the schools that was under enrolled, but as we talk about these moments, in 2020, I think a lot of folks recognize some of these challenges that Black folks have been dealing with and recognized for many, many years. But it caused us all to kind of have a little bit more stress and trauma and trying to reconcile and deal with that. What did you do in 2020? What are you carrying forward in 2021 to kind of help deal with that and manage this? Some people call it self-care or however you want to deem it. What are you doing to make sure that you don't go crazy?
Fortunately, I do have a nice network of friends. But they're not all in my bubble right now. Mm-hmm. Also, they are, and then since they're also retired too, they're also looking for, partnerships and companionships and that type of thing. I was getting up every morning, like going to the gym, and especially doing some of their, since I'm older now, doing some of the classes they had there that were fun, even the Zumba class. And that really kind of helped, because I even noticed the next time I went to the doctor, all of my blood levels and work was all looking good. The doctor was smiling. So I don't know what he's going to say about this last time around.
Well, you're rolling right into my next question. What are you doing to stay active? Gyms will be, or the group classes will be open coming pretty soon. The governor had the pause and kind of the slow open on gyms. And so we're grateful that those things are kind of coming back online as they become safer, as our numbers continue to dip. But what are you doing to stay active as you talk about how important it is, particularly for our folks, to be,
And especially when you get a little older too, if you don't make it active, it goes bad fast. So I'm looking at some of the exercise classes on streaming and doing some of those every day. And I've got a own little exercise routine I do a little bit. And I'm also shoveling my snow for myself and my neighbors. So
you better be careful, brother. Now, I mean, it's been a light year, but you don't want to be one of those people that, the news is out there. Councilman Toussant collapsed while shoveling the snow. Brother, just get a snowblower. I got,
I got a snowblower too, but like this morning, it wasn't a snowblower. It's got to shove it to the side.
That's true.
And I live in a colonial house, so I'm running up and down the steps all the time too.
Yeah, you just, you got to take those breaks. I mean, I think everybody gets out there and they're like, all right, I'm gonna get this into one pass. It's like, no, bro, you need to take it slow on that shoveling, especially
what do you do to keep yourself looking fit?
Oh, now you didn't say nothing but a word. Now I am all about that fitness life, right? So I've got a pretty robust gym I built out in the garage. Every year I build a project for my birthday. And so I built an obstacle course in the backyard a couple of years ago. I had a gym in the basement that I transitioned into my garage this year. And yeah, I love being physically active, right? Like, I love working out. I am very excited about it. The Army changed their physical fitness test. So they went from an APFT, which was a 3-event test. It was a 2-minute push-ups, 2-minute sit-ups, and a 2-mile run. And they moved to a much more expansive test to include a max 3-rep deadlift and a sprint drag carry and an overhead throw. And so it included a lot more robust activities that I had to start training for, because I'm an officer. I should be at the front of my team. So I had to change up my training a bit. And when they announced it 2 years ago, I could deadlift like 300 pounds once. And I just pulled 500 pounds a week ago. So I've been really getting after it to make sure that when it's my time that I can do the things that I need to do. So my unit is an airborne unit. And so we exit out of aircrafts, and you want to make sure that you have done everything you can to ensure that when you hit the ground, you have as much redundancy built in your muscles and all that kind of stuff. So you don't want to be just barely, meeting the level. You're like, I want to be at the best, because, you never know how long you're gonna have to go with that. So I always tell folks I do the things that I do because there's going to be a moment where God willing, I never have to have that moment. But if there is, where I need to be able to do something, and when I need to be able to do it, I need to be able to do it. So
yeah, the more exercising I find I'm exercising better, I can go right up and down the steps easier, lift things a lot easier. My endurance is better. It just, you think of more things to do instead of just, being a couch potato. So I'm a believer in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things that I saw when I got back in shape again was just, doing all those deadlifts. My back felt better sitting down, right? Like there's nothing like, everybody sit down like this and your back stuff hurt. Now that I've been deadlifting frequently, my back will never hurt anymore. Like it's just strong. And so for all those folks who are sitting in uncomfortable chairs or with back problems, start deadlifting. It's great for your back. If you do it right and follow the right technique, all the caveats of exercise safely and consult your doctor before you start a new physical activity routine. So,
I just got to ask you real quickly. I saw that you graduated from Cornell. How was your experience at Cornell?
That's great.
That's an Ivy League type of school.
It was really great. Cornell was not my first choice, but it was exactly.
Harvard was your first one, I mean,
Yale was my first choice.
Okay.
And so ironically, that's where my wife ended up, where my wife went. And she often jokes about how if we had gone to school together, we probably would not be together today. So, thank God for unanswered prayers, as they say. But no, my experience was great. My friends that I made there are still my best friends. The godfather to my daughter, the groomsman of my wedding. Like we talk regularly. And even through this pandemic, it's probably brought us back closer together because we are all making time for each other. In my college room, and I think the thing that made Cornell so valuable was the network of people that I had, right? So my best friend was the national recruiting manager for City Year. Another one of them is a diplomat in the State Department, runs the Emergency Operations Center. Another one is is an orthopedic surgeon who has a hand specialty, who went to Harvard Med School, and another one works on Apple Maps, and university. Like it's just a really unique moment where I had this kind of group of friends, 6 or 7 of us, and many of us, we're all working class kids, right? Some of them first generation college students. Many of us our parents went out to work every day and came home, and we were all kind of looking at each other, grateful that we had made it anywhere, and kind of stuck together like glue. And it's just been a really unique and amazing experience where, at the same time, having gone to Cornell, an Ivy League school, it opens up doors to people who did not have a similar upbringing, people whose family had been wealthy for generations, people who, are leaders on the New York Stock Exchange, what's Brother Smith's last name? Whose name is falling on my brain, but the brother who gave the commencement address at Morehouse, who paid all their college debt. Cornell alum, member of my fraternity, Alpha Alpha. And so it's just, you have these connection points to people who have been involved in society and who have made these big impacts. And it's just another thing where you can say, hey, I had that same experience, and it matters, right? So the owner of Real Times Media, which owns the Michigan Chronicle, is a Cornell alum and a neighbor. And, I was out talking, and he saw Cornell under my name, and it was a reason for him to talk to me when, I'm not saying he wouldn't have otherwise, but it caught his eye, and he said, "Oh, you played football at Cornell?" "I played football at Cornell." And I was like, yeah. And it was that moment where, and he was driving away, but he stopped because I had that opportunity. And so I always recognize how incredibly lucky I was to get that opportunity, and that it was not, I was just so talented and the best, but I just got really lucky, and people had sown the right things into me, and I was in the right places at the right time and able to act on those opportunities. So I try and make space and ways for other people to do that. And so one of the reasons that we do this podcast is so that we can highlight folks who are doing good work in the district like yourself, right? Like everybody knows who the president is, but not very many people know who their councilman is. Not very many people know who their mayor is unless they live in Detroit or Lansing. Right. But you're the ones who make the big decisions. You're the ones that do the things that they really care about for the most part. So it was a really great opportunity to have you on board. I look forward to having you on in the future and working with you as we make 2021 a better and safer and, a year where we all start to come back together, because it was rough being far away, right? It was rough being distant.
Oh yeah. And what's like about the Harper Woods, all our council people, they, especially our Councilwoman Lyons, always having some sort of activity going on, some podcast going on, some way of getting the community more involved. So since I'm also the one that's on our city council that also has gender diversification, I'm the only male on the council. It's good to kind of, give you a nice way of giving some different perspectives on it from both points of view.
Yes. So excellent. So, Councilman, do you have any other parting words, folks, for our listeners that they can see or hear?
Nothing at this point too much. I'm trying to look at some notes I have here. No, just glad that I've got a chance to actually meet with you. And such a young senator too. I'm impressed. I'm so impressed.
I'm 35 years old. I can run for president right now.
You could.
I
mean, how old was John F. Kennedy? I can't remember. He's one of
he was 41.
42. Okay. Something like that. Oh, she said 42. Okay. Yes.
41.
Is that part of your aspirations to continue, maybe be governor, or?
Hey, I want to be as useful as I possibly can. So, I would never have expected to have gotten where I am the way I did. And so I always look forward and say, how can I be the most useful? Where can I go? And how do I do that? So if that is an opportunity for me, I would love to do that, whether that be mayor or governor or president or US Senate or staying in the House or doing all those kind of things. I want to make sure that I'm in a position to take care of the people I represent and the people I care about. And so that's what I want to do. And that's what I will be committed to doing for as long as I have options and the opportunity to do so. So we're very excited about having you. I look forward to working with you more in the future. And thanks for joining us. This is
Thank you.
So I'm Senator Adam Hollier, and this is the We Can Do Better podcast, where we highlight people who are doing amazing and interesting things in the 2nd Senate District and across Michigan. And thanks for tuning in. And I hope you like and subscribe and do all those kind of things. Have a great day.